Hello and welcome. In this chapter, we'll look at the state of HX and a roadmap for 2024. As we mentioned in an earlier chapter, the human experience of work is really the third wave after user experience and customer experience. In the last 5 years alone, we've seen the job market grow on LinkedIn from almost no people at all doing these roles to over 130,000 with some huge growth in across all companies. So today we see employee experience, people experience, workplace experience roles across all the Fortune 500 and companies of often sometimes many small businesses as well. We just did a workshop, a boot camp with a software company, a SaaS company of 500 people, and they had two employee experience people in their team, a couple of analytics people, and a couple of UX people. So this is becoming a new way of doing HR and other functions across businesses, not always under HR either. So if we look at all these roles, the people doing PX, work experience, employee experience, are about 35,000 people. This is new since 2017. There are about 20,000 people in people analytics roles and another 75,000 doing Agile, Scrum, Sprint, and similar roles. What's really interesting about all this is that most of these people have started since 2020. So we have about 85% of people who have just started since 2020. 90% of them have no prior experience in human-centered design and analytics or agile. By contrast, if you look at analytics people, about 90% of them do have some training or certification in things like data science, statistics, modeling. 80% of agile people have some training and prior experience in agile methodology, and they're certified as agile coaches or scrum masters, etc. So this growth mirrors the exponential growth that we're seeing earlier in user experience and customer experience jobs, about 1 million total and climbing. So these represent all the people in these CX and UX roles. And a study was done about 5 years ago by Nielsen Norman Group that had mapped since 1950 the growth of UX, global UX professionals. And today we're at about, they predicted 5 years ago we would be at about 1 million, and that's where we are. So these jobs are not growing away. They're becoming the fastest wave of the way organizations are working. And that's why it's important for all of us to learn these tools and these new ways of working, because this is the future. If we look at CX, just in the last few years, there have been different studies that show just how important CX has become as central to organizations. It's seen as their top growth engines. 90% of companies have a chief experience officer on the CX side. 95% cite CX job roles as critical to job growth. So as many of us would say, the employee experience is key to solve before you solve the customer experience. If you can have a strong and powerful employee experience or human experience of work, you're much more likely to have a much stronger customer experience. Let's look at maturity level. So this is early information coming in from our research doing right now. Shows that about 55% of companies are still in those early phases of just researching what they want to do. They're just starting mapping journeys. They're creating personas. They're piloting it in different parts of the organization, and very few are far along with building new capability or new ways of working, etc. All right, just as an example, so looking at the sample market in the New York City metro area, I've highlighted out of these 18 or 20 people that I pulled from LinkedIn. This shows over here on the left when they started. So you can see a lot of 2020, 2021, and maybe a couple of 18s or 19s in there. So most people, again, started in the last 3 years. And you could see here their previous roles and what they mentioned. So what you would look for is education and certification and design thinking, service design, UX, UI, research, Scrum Master, analytics, etc., anything. And out of this, I've highlighted in green the people who show some prior experience listing in LinkedIn. So out of these 18 or 20 people, I only have 4 people that show any prior experience. If I do the same for UX and UI heads, everyone has prior experience and lists certifications. These are the kinds of things you would look for in theirs. And these are the types of things that you see. So not only do we have to be better at learning these skills, but we also have to be better at highlighting them. I find it amazing that somebody is leading globally a function like experience and has never had any prior training or certification, or not mentioning those things. So if you look at analytics heads, same thing. Out of around 25 people, only 4 don't have any previous experience mentioned, at least mentioned in there. But overwhelmingly, very, very high levels of training and certification. So clearly, this is an area that we need to get better at. And as people, for those of us who are hiring people into these roles, we need to be much more aware of what's needed, what we should be looking for, and the kinds of skills we need to be developing in these people. These are not soft skills. These tools and methods are something that are very specific methodologies that need to be learned. So with all of that, what's a roadmap for building the human experience of work in 2024? These are some things that we've developed over the last 6 years working with dozens of companies in this space. We do research in this space, and I'm also chair of a group of HX heads, or employee experience heads, globally from across about 30 to 40 companies. It all starts with really understanding the foundation basics. In these chapters that you've been introduced here, you're learning some key concepts about the tools and methods and how they work. So this introduction to this is key as a foundation. Learn these things and get certified and trained in those. The Champions Bootcamp is a good way to get more people involved across an organization. All the people who would sponsor or champion or be involved with projects doing research and design of new experiences. So the journey teams, they would be the people who need to go this, but also anybody who is going to be managing those people or needing to have governance or view the data that's coming out of this. So starting to build a population of champions or sponsors or ambassadors for this. That's what the boot camp is all for. And then starting to apply that into a bigger project. So once you learn the skills, get the facilitation methods, get the online mapping and learn how to use that, apply that to a bigger project. So for example, the whole experience of onboarding, maybe the 6-month onboarding journey, something that is involving maybe many sub-journeys and different pieces and stitching that together. That's something that we also support with our network of coaches. Deepening your role. So as you get more advanced in this, really start to specialize. Am I somebody who needs to understand the research or the analytics? Or if I'm somebody who is in governance for this, or I'm someone who is managing multiple journeys. I'm a head of EX and I'm managing multiple journeys. So being strategic, the change management aspects. So these are deepening the skill set in aiding the HX transformation. There are certifications for those for different people and personas. Then you've got also how to make it sustainable. So the people who are the top specialists, so the head of HX for a company, and the people who are going to be the coaches on your transformation, they need to learn also these skills. So let's wrap up with a few tips for 2024 and how to get started. First of all, think holistically. Start to think about this as the experience of work, not just of HR, because on the day-to-day average, most of us, even HR people, do not interact with HR all that much. So thinking holistically beyond as the experience as being just the experience of HR. Start small, pilot it in a small project. Find a sponsor who is willing to do this. And we do not advise that you go big on this. This is something you need to figure out how this works in our environment, in our culture, and do this in a pilot project. Something else that helps a lot is borrow the people who are already doing this somewhere else in your organization and have them help you do these projects. IBM hired UX people to do their first development journeys, and they developed a team of specialists across HR. They eventually, a few years ago, hired around 9,000 designers, and UX and CX people, analytics people, people who could do the research to do this across the organization. But it started small with that first pilot group and then grew. Walmart did the same thing a few years ago. A company of 2 million employees. They borrowed 100 specialists from UX and CX and said, come over here in HR and teach us how to do this. As I mentioned a moment ago, find a few key stakeholders who are willing to help you do this and get it started. Get them involved in your boot camp. Start to build champions across the organization. Find people who understand how this works, who can talk to and convince others. So it's like building the coalition of the willing we used to talk about in change management. Read for yourself. Take certifications in human-centered design. Start applying it in your work in a few ways. These and other things will really help you get started in this. But I just encourage you to try it. And if you need coaching, if you need help, reach out to us. I'll be happy to help to connect you with other people who are doing this, or we can share examples how to do this in other companies and coach you ourselves on a few key ways to get this started. Here's a recommended reading list, which I'll share with you also in the slides. But the Design Thinking Toolkit, Service Design Thinking books by Stickdorn, and these are, I think these top three here are books that you should start with and to get an understanding of how this works. I wish you well in this journey. Please reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. Don't forget our boot camp for open enrollment on January 8th to 12th if you want to learn these tools and methods with some peers. And we look forward to seeing you have a lot of success in 2024. Thank you.